Some major news here. Trump attorney Sidney Powell has pleaded guilty in the Georgia election subversion case. In exchange for her guilty plea, Powell will be sentenced to 6 years of probation, as well as a fine to the state. She'll write an apology letter to the citizens in the state of Georgia. But most importantly, Powell has agreed to testify against the remaining witnesses, meaning we are all but certain to see her testify as a witness against Donald Trump. This also raises the likelihood of other co-defendants opting to cooperate against Trump. Remember, with every co-defendant who decides to cooperate with prosecutors, it makes the case against those who continue not to cooperate that much stronger. And so now, we may very well see a domino effect, where other major defendants like Sidney Powell decide to come forward, rather than be on the receiving end of what's amounting to a stronger and stronger case against them. And by the way, Powell's cooperation shouldn't exactly come as a surprise. My Legal Breakdown co-host Glenn Kirshner and I discussed this very possibility of Powell flipping only weeks ago.
How big a fish is the defendant that is offering to plead guilty and cooperate? How serious are the crimes against, the people of Georgia committed by Sidney Powell? And how much incriminating evidence can Sidney Powell give against bigger fish? Yes, it seems like Sidney Powell's crimes were pretty widespread and consequential. However, we also know that she was in the Oval Office on any number of occasions, and it seems like she can provide sharply incriminating testimony against the biggest fish, the big orange blowfish himself, Donald Trump. So all of that has to go into the calculation about what to do with Sidney Powell. Certainly, I can tell you prosecutors would want to bring her on board as a cooperating witness, but they're also going to want to hold her accountable for the significant criminal activity she perpetrated. So all of these things are fact-intensive decisions that have to be made by prosecutors. And let me tell you, Brian, this is an art, not a science. There is no playbook. There is no calculator that you can plug all of this evidence into and get out, the only one correct answer. So again, I think DA Willis's team is up to making these kind of really difficult calls.
Yeah, I can absolutely appreciate how much of a balancing act all of this is. And let's be clear, this isn't the only Trump ally to flip on the embattled former president. Politico has reported that Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, his defense will likely include blaming Donald Trump as the driving force behind efforts to steal the 2020 election. In court, Meadows' attorney downplayed Meadows' culpability by pointing out that he never called the Georgia Secretary of State to change the vote totals. During cross-examination with Brad Raffensperger, Meadows' lawyer asked, he didn't make a request that you change the vote totals, Mr. Meadows himself, to which Raffensperger replied, correct. And of course, a question like that only underscores the fact that Donald Trump did in fact make that request. Meadows signals his intention to dump Trump again during cross-examination. He was explaining that Trump viewed the fake electors as critical to his strategy of staying in power, and so he needed to line up those slates of electors. Meadows said, what I didn't want to happen was for the campaign to prevail in court action and not have this lined up. When asked why, Meadows responded, because I knew I'd be yelled at by the President of the United States. Again, not exactly something you say in court if your intention is to protect the guy who you just blamed. Meadows views his way out of this as stepping on Donald Trump. Aside from Meadows, 3 of the fake Trump electors also asserted in court that they acted on Trump's behalf, signaling that they're likely to throw Trump under the bus to save themselves. The attorney for one of those electors, Sean Still, now a state senator, wrote a filing writing, Mr. Still, as a presidential elector, was also acting at the direction of the incumbent president of the United States. The president's attorneys instructed Mr. Still and the other contingent electors that they had to meet and cast their ballots on December 14th, 2020. The attorney for another fake elector, Kathleen Latham, submitted a filing stating that she acted at the direction of the President of the United States. And keep in mind, that case hasn't even started in earnest yet, and now 4 people have already publicly opted to turn on Trump. And a number of the remaining co-defendants who've been indicted in Fulton County don't have the benefit of a national following that they can leverage to present themselves as martyrs and victims. We're talking about bail bondsmen, county election supervisors, a pastor, a publicist. These people are currently deciding whether it's worth it to go to prison for someone who A, does not care about them, and B, would not do the same for them, and most importantly, C, couldn't even do anything to help them if he wanted to. Remember, if we're talking about this Fulton County case, this is a state prosecution, meaning that even if Donald Trump were to win the presidency in 2024, he wouldn't even be able to use his powers as president to pardon them, meaning they have nothing to gain by hitching themselves to the wagon that is Donald Trump, which is probably why they're getting restless fast. Consider too, there was also a flip in the classified documents case. An IT aide at Mar-a-Lago named Yuscil Taveras, who oversaw the surveillance camera footage of the property. He had initially testified that he was unaware of any efforts to erase video surveillance footage, but after getting a new attorney, he immediately retracted his false testimony and began cooperating with prosecutors to the detriment of Donald Trump. And to give you an idea of just how deep in the thick of it Taveras is, you might want to take a look at the indictment, which lays out a conversation between Taveras and Mar-a-Lago property manager Carlos de Oliveira. De Oliveira told Trump employee 4 that their conversation should remain between the two of them. De Oliveira asked Trump employee 4 how many days the server retained footage. Trump employee 4 responded that he believed it was approximately 45 days. De Oliveira told Trump employee 4 that the boss wanted the server deleted. Trump employee 4 responded that he would not know how to do that and that he did not believe he would have the rights to do that. Trump employee 4 told De Oliveira that De Oliveira would have to reach out to another employee who was a supervisor at the security for Trump's business organization. De Oliveira then insisted to Trump employee 4 that the boss wanted the server deleted and asked, "What are we going to do?" That testimony is the result of one single person flipping, in case you were wondering the damage that a single witness could do to Donald Trump. And as I mentioned before, it's also a blinking red light for other co-defendants who opt not to flip, because now they're fighting alongside defendants whose case just got a lot weaker. Again, each time someone flips, it makes the case against the remaining defendants even stronger, and that's playing out in real time. The truth is that it's not difficult to recognize the reality that these co-defendants are contending with, and that is that Donald Trump has no defense in any of these cases. He stole classified documents, he pressured Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to find 11,780 non-existent votes, he conspired with a criminal enterprise to get fake electors to present themselves as legitimate electors, he conspired to block a congressional proceeding. On charge after charge after charge, the evidence is clear and convincing. Do not think for a second that the rest of the people listed in these indictments don't recognize that. So whether it's Sidney Powell, the fake electors, an IT manager, or even Mark Meadows himself, the reality of the situation is likely finally starting to hit them, that they are facing the very real possibility of losing their freedom for someone who wouldn't return the favor in a million lifetimes. And while this fealty might have been convenient when prison time wasn't on the table, the situation has obviously changed now. It doesn't matter how much applause they could trade that slavish devotion for at a Trump rally or on Truth Social, because all the applause or likes in the world aren't enough compensation for losing your freedom. And that's what these co-defendants are facing the very real possibility of right now. So it remains to be seen how much longer the list of cooperators gets, but what's clear is that list is growing by the day, and Trump's prospects in his many prosecutions are only looking more and more grim as the result of it. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.